Hmm. That is Miskitaki Ancient Ways. I met him in Peru. Great artist, great medicine carrier. Okay, we are excited here to get started. Hold on, let me wipe my screen here in a second. I don't know if that made it clear. Good morning, welcome everybody. So, again, for anybody that is brand new to this call, here, this is what we're talking about Course in Miracles. Let's bring some miracles to our minds. Miracles, according to the Course, the distinction for miracles is a shift in perception, and that shift happens in the mind. So, the first three chapters that we've been going over, we cover topics where we talk about cause and effect, we talk about the correction of the error. So, we're actually, the section we're on today is actually the error and the ego. But we talk about the correction and error, that is the confusion of levels. And there are only two levels. One level is the mind, the other level is the body. The confusion is that most of the times we try to fix problems at the level of the body, at the level of the physical, right? If we don't have enough, very, very simply, if we don't have money to cover bills, then we go straight into what do we need to do on the physical level. If we get into a debate or an argument, a fight with our significant others, we go immediately into solving something on the physical realm. When really, probably it's the communication, right? It's something that happens that's non-tangible type of things. So the confusion of level, the correction of that is we shift things at the level of thought and the physical follow. This is why there are a lot of new age thinking out there that is about manifestation, that is about affirmations, that is about maybe not even new age, but think and grow rich, right? I mean, one of the best books out there that has helped so many people is Think and Grow Rich. You have to think it. You have to believe it first. What we do as human beings is we have to see before we believe. But the Course says you're not even able to see if you don't believe first. Right? There is a principle called projection makes perception. We make things real in our mind first, right? We believe something first, and then we look for evidence out in the world, or we see things in the world, and then we perceive it back to reinforce what we already believe. It isn't something happening outside in the world, and then we perceive it back, right? My wife is a great teacher, okay, of A Course in Miracles. So she has a lot of, how do I put this? She has a lot of her opinions, her perceptions about health, about, you know, that eating meat is much healthier and better than eating. This is a great example. You eating meat over eating veggies or like vegetables. So I don't eat meat and she eats meat. So I'm already over it. Once upon a time, I used to think, oh, everybody should be a vegetarian, but I'm totally over that conversation. Right, my perceptions shift around it. That so my conflict is gone around it, which actually brings more peace to my heart. However, she still looks for, like we're in an argument or something about it, at odds. Is she's like, well, look, you should start eating meat because this, and she finds all the evidence in the world of why eating meat is healthier, right? But that's not like a fact. That's just some study, maybe something that someone wrote. The world, the reason why we are always in conflict and we have problems is because the world is not consistent. This physical world that we live in is not consistent. So that means we must choose in our minds what we want to believe first. And the Course says there's only two things that you can ever believe in. And that's either love, being compassionate, being kind, being patient, being grateful. These are in line with the energetic frequencies of love. You can only choose to see, and you can only choose that, or fear, which comes in the form of jealousy, insecurities, inadequacies, judgment, attack, defense, right? Because we obviously don't think the world is safe if we need to build up an army to be defensive. And it's funny because on my Monday night calls, the past 2 weeks we've been doing a topic called bankonomics. And we talked about how the government is operating always in deficits all the time. But how do we even come back from it? Right? Every year the government operates in deficits. That means that they spend more money than they raise. They spend more money than they make. And in order to cover that, they have to borrow money. They borrow money for the extra money that they need to spend. And that's just been an ongoing cycle. You know where majority of the money goes? Majority of the money goes to military. And it's such a reflection of us. We spend so much time, so much energy, and so much effort building up our defenses. The ego is always building up defenses. Right? And all you have to do, the reason why you build up defenses is because you don't trust your brothers and sisters out there. There's always dangerous people. This world is not safe. So you build up defenses, just like every single government in the world spends majority of the money on military for defenses. And you always need to update it. Spend $1 trillion this year on some missiles. And then next year those missiles are outdated. What do? You take those missiles, you go sell it to a third world country, you go sell it to a landlord, some new, somebody else that's in power, and then you go make new ones. And we just keep doing this over and over, and that's the insanity. It's the investment in the ego. It's the investment in defense. Defense automatically implies that you need to defend against something. Now, I'm not saying in this world that we don't need to get to a place where we feel safe. Obviously, we don't need to be in the vicinity of conflict all the time to awaken. You can awaken away from it, right? Actually, the Course says you can't even awaken. There's not even a chance to awaken if you're in a space where there's a lot of fear and animosity and attack, right? So that, looking back, and how does it reflect to our lives is, do we stay around toxic people because they're our greatest teachers? No, you don't have to. When your mind is always in conflict around people, around something, then it's actually good to remove yourself away from it too, so that you create a little space. Because the awakening, the enlightenment comes when your mind is in love. And from a distance, when you physically feel distant from somebody, you can actually heal that relationship from afar without even having to do anything. So again, this brings us back to miracles. What is a miracle? A miracle is a shift in your perception, in your mind, about some conflict that you have, about fears that you may have, worries that you may have, regrets that you may have. Right? And for us, it's literally a shift in thinking brings peace back to us. But we have to value peace over everything else. Peace of mind is over all the other things that you can possibly think you may want. And another principle of the Course is that you don't perceive your own best interests. The reason why you don't perceive your own best interests because you forget that peace is what you want over being right. So when my wife and I get into a fight, I want to be right. I want her to understand my position. I want her to behave the way that I want her to behave. I think I want that, but I forgot it's peace that I want. Right? So we can take this and relate it back to anything else in our lives, about money, anything that we're worried and afraid of. All right, so from that space, we're going to ask the Holy Spirit to join us here this morning in our shares, in our speaking, in our listening, so that we may find clarity and unlock some of these things for ourselves in our mind. That as I read and as I share, that you may be thinking about your relationships. You may be thinking about something that you're afraid of. And anytime those conflicts come up, the solution is to give it up to Spirit, to give it up to God, to return to love. All of our conflicts arise from a deviation from love. We deviated away from it, from our own path, from our own callings. All right, and the ego kind of takes over the driver's seat. And the ego is always looking for conflict, always looking for separation. So we're going to start chapter 4 today, the error and the ego. Okay, and as we read this, some people might be brand new. You guys have not heard the previous sections and chapters, and that does not matter whatsoever. Every single chapter, every sentence of A Course in Miracles, of this book right here, stands on its own. It has the power to awaken and help you remember. And the cool thing, the great thing is don't judge yourself ever, because nobody is in a remembered state always. It's just simply right now we can set the intentions for ourselves that we do. Okay, that we remember just for as long of a period of time as we can here. All right, so as I read, try to hear the spirit behind the words that are coming out of my mouth. Okay, feel the connection to the channel that Helen Schuckman had with, she believes it was Jesus that was talking to her. All right, so A Course in Miracles is Christian in languaging. So don't worry about the words. You can replace God with anything else if you don't feel comfortable. It's they're words, right? Words are pointing to something. Okay, so here we go. Here we start. So if you're here and you're listening, thank you for sharing this moment with me and with us. We have a Zoom that is open. There's people on here. And for those of you guys that are live, welcome. Let me just check one thing. Okay, awesome. All right, so section 4 of chapter 3 of A Course in Miracles is titled Error and the Ego. And so here I go. The abilities you now possess are only shadows of your real strength. All your present functions are divided and open to question and doubt. This is because you are not certain how you will use them and therefore incapable of knowledge. Okay, so first, there is something that we get to make the distinction and remember is there are two things that arises in our thoughts, in the world that exists. Okay, in the physical world, there is perception, okay, which is what we've been talking about. It's always shifting. We all have it, our interpretations of something, right? All of us that are here, we can look at a car and have, 18, 20 different perceptions of it. Okay, we can view what's going on the news and have 18 to 20 different perceptions, interpretations of it. So the Course says you are entitled to have that. There is something called a right perception and wrong perception. Wrong perception has you go and attack and judge and, do all of those types of things. And then the other perception that the Course calls right perception is you see it with love and kindness and patience and compassion. No matter what you see on TV, no matter what you see in people in your day today, if you choose to see with love, if love is on your mind, that's how you will see things, right? Because everything in the world is either love or a call for love. Harley, bed, come on. And then the other distinction, the other thing that arises is there are facts. The Course calls knowledge. Knowledge is truth. Knowledge never changes. Doesn't matter what you think about it. Okay, so the only thing we really can point to that is knowledge is love, is God. Right? And then there are attributes of it that just never changes. And so we talk more about that. But knowledge and perception. Okay, we live in the 3D world, in the physical world. We live in the world of perceptions. So there's those two teachers. There's the teacher of the ego, the teacher of the Holy Spirit. Each one produces a perception. Which one is a perception, which produces certain experience of life. And so for you, what is the experience of life that you want to have? That becomes the question. We can look at ourselves. We can look at, situation and things that show up in our life. We can look up our relationships with our family, with our coworkers, with our significant others. Is it a peaceful relationship? Is it a loving relationship? And if it's not, how am I showing up that contributes to it? Right? How is love not on my mind that I don't see love in the relationship right now? Right? And it's a moment-to-moment practice. So that's perception and knowledge. You are also incapable of knowledge because you can still perceive lovelessly. Perception did not exist until the separation introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. Spirit has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Only the levels of Trinity are capable of unity. The levels created by separation cannot but conflict. This is because they are meaningless to each other. Consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after the separation, making the mind a perceiver rather than a creator. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. The ego is wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Yet you can know yourself only as you are, because that is all you can be sure of. Everything else is open to question. The ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self. So let me just, the course is talking a lot about the pre-separation and the post-separation. Imagine in the beginning of time, there was only is. There was nothing else. It's heaven. There's nothing else. It's just is. Everything is whole. Nothing is separated. And then comes one, what the Course calls a tiny mad idea, which the idea was, what if I could be something else other than this? What if I could be somewhere else other than this? That's the beginning of all of our doubts of life. Is I could be, and then I rather be. And then the grass is greener on the other side, and we're never satisfied with what is. And so that tiny mad question right there created the inadequacies. It created the not enoughness. That question right there, it started the comparisons of ourselves and others in the form of material, in the form of the 3D world, rather than on a soul level. On a soul level, it's all the same. There's nothing to compare. But on the physical realm, so the physical world was created after that thought, right? And the thought came, we all have thoughts. There's always thoughts, crazy thoughts that come through our mind, right? And when we forget, when we take it seriously and we take it personal is when it becomes real. See, when somebody else says to me, hey, Alex, your shirt is awful, but I don't put that much energy into it. I laugh at it and that's it. And then it's neutralized, it's returned to nothing, right? And love is still back in the space. Now, if somebody goes, Alex, your Course in Miracles calls is trash, all of a sudden, it's no longer a laughable thing for me, right? it's like now I'm taking it serious and it's personal, and then I made it real. I made something that isn't real real by taking it personal. So the Course says, don't forget to laugh. Don't forget to be joyful. Joy and laughter is the way to remember God. And in today's world, it's becoming ever so more sensitive. Right? We went from, like, if you just watch movies from like back in the 90s to today, right? Some of the things that were said, and it's just, I mean, you can't say any of those things today. Right? So there's a big comparison in that. And all we're looking for is peace, is love, is kindness. Right? But we actually weaponize that to attack others. Like, we want, I feel like our world has become way too sensitive about everything, and this is just my own perceptions of something. It's not the fact, okay? My interpretation is that the world has become a little bit overly sensitive to a lot of words, all right? And so it's noble that we want to be considerate of everybody and their thoughts and stuff like that. However, what the ego does, and this is the error that happens, is in the name of righteousness, we attack and start a war. And this is the same thing we do over and over. We give a great justification for going to war and attacking somebody. The same attack that you're trying to prevent, because that is real in your mind, that you see it, you automatically can't not escape doing the same thing because that's on your mind. This is why we say, what was the line? Oh my God. Anyways, forgot the line that I was going to say. There's a nice quote. But we usually create more of what we don't want to have happen. Because if we see it in our mind, it's not that we perceived it and then it's creating a reaction. That's real in my mind first. That's why I can see it. And then if I try to go fix it, what happens if I attack something in order to fix that? This is why the Course says you need do nothing but shift your thoughts. The world or the situation or anything, people around you, they do not need to change. Your perspective around it needs to change. The only reason you would have conflict is you are saying, God, you're making a mistake here. This consciousness and the spirit that flows through me is not flowing through over there. That's why that's happening. And so move over, God. I will be the judge. I will be the executioner here. And this is what we do as human beings. And we just create more and more conflict in our own lives. And then we go and enroll other people into the conflict. We're like, it's not good enough that I'm upset about this. I need to go and get everybody to be aligned to it too. It's insanity, right? It's our insanity. Consciousness is correctly identified in the domain as the domain of the ego. Okay, here we go. This is interesting paragraph, a couple paragraphs here. The ego is wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. See, the wishing to be, this is why the Course says you don't perceive your own best interest. You wish to be something else. You wish to have more money. You wish for this, to be more athletic, to be taller, to be, all the things in the physical realm. You wish it, thinking it's going to get you something that you want. But you don't know what you want. That's the problem. You don't know what you want. So rather than as you are, those wishing to be something else creates the limitation on ourselves, which is so interesting, right? Yet you can know yourself only as you are, because that is all you can be sure of. Everything else is open to question. The ego is questioning aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. So there's the distinction of made and created. Made is something we make up through our interpretations, our stories, our past, our traumas, what we think about those things. Those are things that we make up. They're not the truth, right? Like parents could split up, and we can make up about how the kids will grow up. But that's not the truth. It's just one aspect of an insecure part of ourselves that we projected onto it. Because there are plenty of parents that have divorced and the kids live in whatever environment and they grow up to be amazing. But that would be seeing it with love and trust. The other aspect is to see it with fear. Is what kind of childhood are they going to be living? Are they going to be growing up in? Right? Like me and my wife have this conversation all the time too. You need to be this way so that you can do this for our kids, so they don't do this and they don't do that. I mean, there's just a lot. But all we're saying is we think that what we do is greater than what God is doing, has more effect. Okay, so it is capable of asking questions but not perceiving meaningful answers, because these would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. The mind is therefore confused because only one-mindedness can be without confusion. A separated or divided mind must be confused. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is. It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. This makes its aspects strangers to each other, and this is the essence of a fear-prone condition, in which attack is always possible. You have every reason to feel afraid as you perceive yourself. This is why you cannot escape fear until you realize that you did not and could not create yourself. You could never make your misperceptions true, and your creation is beyond your own error. That is why you must eventually choose to heal the separation. So if you think about, like, I was watching a video last night, and this dog that was chained up on the side of the road and abandoned, automatically it's in such a fear state that it's attacking and trying to bite anyone coming around, right? Because it's so afraid. It's so afraid, and that level of fear, the dog projects it back. Like it was abandoned, and it's chained up on the side of the road, and it actually had puppies, and 2 of the puppies were dead, and and the dog was very, very aggressive. So that's fear. When we react we do the same thing as human beings. When we have fear, this is why they say, kids that are afraid and have huge insecurity issues, they go out and bully other kids. Right? I mean, if you're just so loving and accepting, like, you don't go out and bully other kids. Now, again, this is the important part, is even if we look at somebody, let's just use this kid that's bullying other kids, we think that is the behavior that needs to change. Right? We go right into the fixing of a behavior. We go into the punishment and whatever ways we try to change a behavior. But it is beyond that. The behavior itself is at the effect of something else. And all we try to do in this world is trying to fix symptoms of things. My friend Paul Hutchinson, we had this conversation. He's the executive producer of Sound of Freedom. He was down in South America for 10 years with his operators and rescuing kids that have been trafficked. He's rescued hundreds of kids, arrested tons of dealers, I guess, or even cartel members. Like, yes, he put all those people away, but what he was doing was he was trying to fix the problem by fixing the symptoms of the problems. That is the reason why that exists is it's the effect of something else that gets to be healed at the level of thought. But in order for that to happen, he must change his own thinking around it first. And he and I were talking about how do you go and see these people trafficking kids with no feeling of guilt, the trafficking humans, kids without the feeling of guilt. He's like, most people would say, like, how do you not hate them and want to just kill them? Right? And he's like, when he judges somebody, like, this has to shift in his mind. He has to find some peace first. In order to bring peace, he has to do this. So he's like, I have to shift my thinking about them first. Otherwise, all I'm doing is propelling more of the same thing. More war, more deaths, right? And when he was rescuing these kids, yes, he rescued hundreds of kids, but the amount of people that was being trafficked and kids being trafficked from the time that he started till the time that he decided to now share publicly, right? So he's doing podcasts wherever he can. He's starting a couple healing centers. He's partnered in a lot of things that are healing of the heart and the mind. Right? The number, like, skyrocketed. He put a ton of people away in jail, rescued a whole bunch of kids, and all it did was create a vacuum for a bigger demand. And the numbers, like, tripled. So by trying to fix the symptoms of things, oftentimes all we do is create more of what's the same. So only love and light can really conquer. Hey, Brooke, welcome. So back to the text. Right-mindedness is not to be confused with the knowing mind, because it is applicable only to the right perception. So again, what is right perception and wrong perception? They're still perceptions. They're not the truth. So right perception is aligned with peace and love, kindness, right? Patience. And then wrong perception is to see it with fear, is to see it with attack and defense and judgment, and shaming and guilting. So two different perceptions. Neither one is the truth, because they're still ways of thinking in which has holes and can change at any given time. So truth is knowing. Truth is the revelation. Truth is, it's incapable of change. Doesn't matter where you are going, right perception or wrong one. Right perception, however, just takes you closer to having the experience of knowing and gives you the peaceful, the experience, the outcome of it is peace, is love, is trust. And in trust, we now are closer to knowledge. We can see it. All right? But neither one actually can achieve that final state faster than the other. Because who knows? Somebody needs to be going down the other path for a while and can actually, in a moment, shift into awakening. Okay, somebody that is practicing being right-minded also has that opportunity. This is why the Course says the Holy Spirit literally is just watching us. God is just patient. The moment you invite God and Spirit into your life, things become easier, because you take the weight of everything off your shoulders. Anytime you're ever worried about anything is because you are bringing a future into the present moment. In the future, your calendar may be full and you may have a whole bunch of things to do, and you got to close a deal, you got to get on these calls. But right now, in this moment, why are you throwing your peace away for something that isn't even here yet? And the only way to actually get rid of those worries actually is to trust. Right? If you take all of it and you throw it on your shoulders, of course it's going to be heavy. Of course you're going to be short, and you're going to have temper tantrums, and you're going to yell at your partners and your husband and your friends and your wife and all of that. Because in this moment, you've lost your peace. And what the ego does is we project our experience out onto others. Okay, that's just what happens. So, the term right-mindedness is properly used as a correction for wrong-mindedness and applies to the state of mind that induces accurate perception. It is miracle-minded because it heals perception, and this is indeed a miracle in view of how you perceive yourself. So back to miracles. Miracles is shifting, is me having a thought, a loveless thought. I'm afraid. I want to attack. I want to guilt. I want to shame. And we shift that. The thought in our mind, our perception goes from wrong perception to right perception. All of a sudden, we feel love. We feel kindness. We feel trusting in that space. We trust what's to come. So, miracles are just a shift in your perception. And we all have that. So this is all we want to ask for. We want to ask for, God, show me a different way to perceive this. Whenever we lose our shit, we lose our when we aren't composed anymore, we get compromised. What's what I call it. We're compromised in the moment. We're anxious. We're short. Our tempers are short. We have to just pause and stop, and we say, God, show me a different perception. Show me a different way to look at it. You allow for spirit to come into your life. Otherwise, all you will do is overthink. All you will do is stare at a wall and just overanalyze. And it's not going to get you anywhere, because there is another law. The other law is where energy flows to, what you give attention to increases. Right? So instead of giving it over, you just start to think on it. So let's say you and your significant other or your friend or your family or someone, you guys get into an argument. Instead of asking for a different perception, all you do is just think and think and think, and you just grow it. The law of expansion. You are expanding it, making it bigger and bigger and bigger and more real. And at some point, you just won't know what to do with it. But the Course says, just like gravity, actually, I don't know if the Course says this, maybe I say this sometimes, is just like our world, like Earth, we have gravity. This is why we think some things are heavier than others. This desk is heavier than this book. And then we also have these things, imaginary things in our consciousness that we believe are heavier, bigger, more important than others. Here, God, I can give this thing over to you because it's really nothing to me. Right? I lose a little piece over it, but here, you take it. But something that's big, something that we've already placed a lot of thought and attention to, we're like, no, we can't give this to God or Holy Spirit. It's too big. I got to figure it out. Let me just keep thinking on it. Let me keep, trying to figure it out myself. But if you take this desk and you take this book and you take it to space, they literally weigh the same because there is no gravity. Okay, this is my example of giving things over to spirit. To spirit, both are equally the same. The conflict is the same and the solution is the same. And it's a simple reminder of just giving it over. Okay? The Holy Spirit's like, here, just give it over to me. Don't worry about it. But we hold on to some things first. Let me figure it out first before I can give it over. Give everything over. It's all the same. There is nothing that is heavier, bigger, or smaller. This is what the Course was talking about, the levels. Right? In the beginning, it opens with levels. Where were the words? What was it looking for? Anyways, so that's my example for it. Okay? So let me continue reading. Perception always involves some misuse of mind because it brings the mind into areas of uncertainty. The mind is very active. When it chooses to be separate, when it chooses to be separated, it chooses to perceive. Until then, it wills only to know. Afterwards, it can only choose ambiguously, and the only way out of ambiguity is clear perception. The mind returns to its proper function when it wills to know. This places it in the service of spirit, where perception is changed. The mind chooses to divide itself when it chooses to make its own levels. But it cannot entirely separate itself from spirit, because it is from spirit where it derives its whole power to make or create. Even in miscreation, the mind is affirming the source, its source, and it would merely cease to be. This is impossible because the mind belongs to spirit which God created and which is therefore eternal. The ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something with something else. That is why perception involves an exchange or translation, which knowledge does not need. The interpretive function of perception, a distorted form of creation, then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced. Spirit, which knows, could not be reconciled with this loss of power because it is incapable of darkness. This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind, and entirely inaccessible to the body. Therefore, spirit is perceived as a threat, because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. And what we do is we protect the darkness. We protect our stories. We protect the things that we want to be right about. We all got them. We all got them. They all come from our past. We've interpreted our experience of life up to this point, right? And I love sharing, the Marianne Williamson story where she grew up and had the story that she was holding on to. Okay, she was holding on to the story of her parents having terrible relationship because all they do is fight. All they do is fight. It seemed like a very hostile relationship. And she blamed her own inability to have relationships correctly to that, which has really zero connections. But we justify this connection in our world. Okay, each one of us justifies that relationship. How you were brought up justifies who you're being today. At least for ourselves, we justify that. We don't justify it for other people, right? But for ourselves, we justify that. However, one day when Marian's father passed, she found all these love letters of when he was courting her mom. And after he passed, right? Like oftentimes we wait till somebody passes in order to let go of all the things we were holding on to them, about them. So it changed the whole way that she perceived her whole past. It all rested on that story right there. Her entire life up to that point was excuses, and it was so affected by her thoughts that she carried on about her parents. And it isn't the truth. See, all it did was there was light that shined onto it, and then the darkness disappeared. And it's changed everything, all the stories that she ever had that related to that. She connected a lot of things to that story that she made up about their relationship. When you make up a story about somebody, you will see every single thing they do through that lens. If you are triggered and you have a judgment on Donald Trump, okay, if you have an idea about Donald Trump, there will be no time in which he will ever say anything out of his mouth that you can feel, wow, I just learned something from him. Wow, he's actually pretty smart. Wow, that makes sense. See, this is what we do. We do it to ourselves and we do it to others. And the Course said the correction is, Spirit says, give it to me. Okay, you did not create yourself. And you have to recognize you didn't create yourself. If you didn't create yourself, who created you? Who created all of these things that's happening? Anytime that we go into conflict, we're just saying, God, you didn't get it right. That's the arrogance of the ego. God, you did not get it right. Let me do it. What the heck could we possibly know? We live out of stories. Right? So we have to cleanse ourselves of that. Purify ourselves through being miracle-minded. Every time we're in conflict, every time we're scared, every time we're worried, every time we just don't believe and we don't have faith, we got to say, this is the time for us to invite that in. We're unsure of something. We did something that we regret. We feel stupid about saying something or doing something. God, give it. I'm giving it to you. Right? I'm just a channel. I don't know what I served in that moment, but you know. See, we can find a lot of comfort and peace just saying, God, you know. When we take it and we try to make things up about it, that is when we don't know. And we're worried and we create all the worries. All right, so light automatically abolishes darkness because it shows you that it wasn't real. And when Marianne found out, man, what I thought about my parents isn't even real, every single one of her stories that she attached to it came up for questioning. It was like a fact for her until it wasn't. Right? Okay. So truth will always overcome error in this way. This cannot be an active process of correction because I have already emphasized knowledge does not need to do anything. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. What you perceive as its attack is its own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. God and his creations remain in surety, and therefore know that no miscreations exist. No miscreation exists. No accidents in the plans of God. No accidents that each one of you are here and hearing this message right now. There are no accidents. All right? There are no accidents that you're here. There's no accidents in the people that you run into, that you share a smile with, that you meet. Literally no accidents. You know how rare it is, the chances in all of eternity and today in a world of 9 billion people and of all the different times that we could have possibly lived in, that you and I are here right now having this conversation. That's like winning the lottery 1,000 times in a row. Like, what's the chance of that? Winning the lottery is a big chance. Now we win it 1,000 times in a row. That's the type of, like, non-mistake, non-error that is happening in our interaction here, in being here, being alive, sharing this moment at the same time. Okay, there is literally zero accidents. Oh yeah, almost done. No worries. Okay. God and his creations. Okay, I already just read that. Truth cannot deal with with errors that you want. I was a man who remembered spirit and its knowledge. As a man, I did not attempt to counteract error with knowledge, but to correct error from the bottom up. This is Jesus talking to us now. I demonstrated both the powerlessness of the body and the power of the mind. By uniting my will with the will of my Creator, I naturally remember spirit and its real purpose. I cannot unite your will with God's for you, but I can erase all misperceptions from your mind if you will bring it under my guidance. Only your misperceptions stand in your way. Without them, your choice is certain. Sane perception induces sane choosing. I cannot choose for you, but I can't help you make your own right choice. Many are called, but few are chosen. Okay, in the Bible, should be all are called, but few listen. Ain't that the truth about everything? All are called, but few choose to listen. Therefore, they do not choose right. The chosen ones, quotation mark, are merely those who chose right sooner. Right minds can do this now, and they will find rest unto their souls. God knows you only in peace, and this is your reality. Next week, what day is it? It's Wednesday today. On Sunday, we will go into beyond perception. I think if I make it on Sunday, Sunday I'm going to San Diego this weekend. Who knows what's going to happen, but hopefully I will make this call on Sunday morning, and it's beyond the perception. This is a really great chapter too. And then we're going to move on to judgment and the authority problem. That is our only problem. Our only problem is that authority problem. Right? And it shows up in our life. We have authority problem with everybody. We're always trying to level with people. Anybody that's in power or have authority, we're like, no, you're doing this wrong. Da, 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 da. But really, that authority problem is with God. You know, it's that moment where we kick God off the throne and we say, let me sit here. I will tell you what's going to be best. You must have made a mistake. Right? This person came out shitty. You must have made a mistake. What the heck do we freaking know? We're like a little speck. We're like a speck of a speck. And we think we know something. Okay, it's if you want peace, just know that you know nothing. That's it. Okay, so awesome. Let's open up for any conversations. What are your thoughts? What did you hear? If you have any challenges or conflicts, this is a great time to bring it up, and we share some teachings and guidance from A Course in Miracles. All right, this is usually the section that is like the most eye-opening because we get to relate it through your life. So, it will be a contribution. Either way, you'll be in service. Go ahead, Fraser. The Segment Temple in Vegas, yeah.
And it was amazing. It was beautiful. And I went there with intention to clarify something in my mind. And I left there feeling really good. And of course, the test came in later that night. And I started to fall into the perception of lack because of a situation back at home. And my mind started going in overdrive. And then I just realized, I said, I gotta let it go. I gotta let it go. And to just, it'll come around. Everything that is happening there will eventually not be an issue. So I had to really look at how I perceived it. And it's the same thing as we talked about before with that contractor. It's a continued situation of payment not being made on contracts. So it's a consistency that's been happening there. So trying to keep my mind out of that place of lack seems to be a challenge for me at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you compare lack to the physical world of what is, right? To money. Money seems to be what makes us feel lack or not lacking. However, people that have all sorts of money feel lack also. So then what's the answer? Because obviously that's not real, right? So there's a book Marianne also wrote a book called Divine Compensation, and it's so funny because I flip open her A Year of Miracles here, and literally the section that I was thinking about, the book that I'm thinking about for you called Divine Compensation, I flipped to a freaking page that says on divine compensation. It is madness. Like some of these things that happen, I'm just like, how does that even happen? So for you, I'm just gonna read this one little paragraph that Marianne wrote, and she's such a wordsmith, like a master wordsmith. So you take this and see how you can apply it to your turmoils, let's call it. Okay? So for reflection on divine compensation. As an expression of divine perfection, the universe is both self-organizing and self-correcting. To whatever extent your mind is aligned with love, you will receive divine compensation for any lack in your material existence. From spiritual substance will come material manifestation. This is not just a theory, it is a fact. It is a law by which the universe operates. It is called the law of divine compensation. Just as there are objective, discernible laws of external phenomena, there are also objective, discernible laws of internal phenomena. The law of gravity, for instance, is not just a belief. It is true whether or not you believe it. Spiritual laws are not just beliefs either. They are descriptions of how consciousness operates. Once we know this law, and there is a natural tendency of the universe to improve all things, then we lean naturally into the arms of God and allow Him to lift us up. We surrender our thoughts. Then He uplifts our thoughts, and then our experiences change. There is a natural tendency of the universe to always expand. Love creates all things more of itself. It changes all things unlike itself to become itself. It is always expanding. Love is always creating more love. You just have to tap into that. You tap your consciousness and your spiritual, your soul into that, and then the physical changes. God changes that, and then our experience changes, because it's the feeling of lack that we are trying to give up. It's not more money, right? So we change our experience, and it doesn't even require more money to hit your bank account. It doesn't require this person to pay you right now. We want to change the wrong things. This is the level of confusion that the Course says we have. We think that if I just got this person to pay me what he owed me, then my lack and my experience will change. Actually, all you're doing is enabling that experience, and you will just create more of that, just in a different form. What you are looking for is the shifting of where that experience even came from, right? Like the feeling of lack is not from this person not paying you. Now, if you change that feeling of lack, the experience changes, and then the physical follows, the manifestation follows. You share more love, more compassion, because he's not paying you, not because he's a bad dude, not because he's just looking to screw people. Obviously, he's got his own struggles. If you attack him, it entrenches him to be more right about why he's not paying you. He'll start looking for evidence, right, of why he shouldn't pay you everything or even anything at all. But shifting your thoughts about it, you no longer feel the lack. You can be kind and compassionate and gentle with your brother, right? It's a brother. This is your brother. He's going through his challenges. Nobody chooses to be out of integrity naturally. So the chances of him actually figuring out how to pay you comes from love and compassion and understanding. So now we just have to recognize what it is that I want to shift. I want to shift the source of this lack. And that source is not on the physical. See, the physical, the symptom is this guy didn't pay me what he said he was going to pay me. And then it's making me feel like I have less money, less opportunity, less things I can do. But that's not true. Money and abundance is literally right here, right now, waiting for you to grab it, but you're focusing on something else. So how can we be just so open and loving and be ready for what is already existent, what is in existence around us all the time? We just got to grab it. Right? Just because we don't see it does not mean it's not there. All right? So hopefully that supported you there. Anything else you want to add to that, share, or anybody else? Awesome. I draw a card for you. Get a small card today. Can you imagine what it means to have no cares, no worries, no anxieties, but merely to be perfectly calm and quiet all the time? There you go. It's a card for you. Can we all imagine that? Shit. I want some of that. And so it is. Who else? Who else have some things you want to share? What's on your mind? Know that if you're thinking about it right now, it's meant to be here. So I got these cards. I'm one of those cool people that pull cards. If you want me to pull a card for you, share what's on your mind. I have a lot of negative stories about my ex. I broke up with him. He's a narcissist. He had an emotional wall. He wasn't a high vibration exactly. I'm ready to hand it over to God. The willingness, the fact that you said, I'm ready to hand it over to God, that's all you need. You don't need to know what that's going to look like, right? But the stories, like you got to just think about the words that come out of your mouth. You'll know that you've handed it over to God when there's no more of the he's a narcissist, he's an emotional wall. Everybody is doing the best that they possibly can. That is it. And you heal people by thinking about them differently. Right? There is this divine observation. See Christ consciousness and see light in the people that trigger you the most. See the light in them. You call it forth. You remember it for them. And really, you're remembering it for yourself. Right? Because as you see here, it's not just about him. It's not just about forgiving him and not calling him a narcissist or having an emotional wall. It's that if you believe that to be true, you will start to see that in people that resemble your ex. And all that does is create more of the same in your relationships. That's why I never use the word narcissism. I'm like, people are doing the best they can. It's just a form of ego that comes up. We all got narcissism at some level because that's just the ego. And so it's just let me shift my relationship about those words. Right? Let me change my stories about it because I care about peace that I want now. Right? I can't let that if the stories of your ex, Catherine, like you want to giving it over to God, you'll know you gave it over when you have gratitude for this relationship. And only gratitude. And you only want the best for this person and for you. And then maybe eventually even being able to talk to this person from such a neutral place. Right? You'll know you have healed. Any energy that we carry is an opportunity to learn. And any opportunity to learn, we should be grateful for. So the first space to heal is when we bring gratitude to the fact that there is healing that's available right now. That this person is giving me the opportunity. You know? Yeah, that's why my wife, we get into some serious arguments sometimes. And afterwards, I'm just like, man, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful she was able to show me that. Right? There is only one thing ever happening. Everything is designed around me to show me and help me remember love again. Whether it comes in the form of love or it comes in the form of a call for love, right? Maybe I'm calling for love myself. Maybe this person is calling for love. Either way, the experience of love, and love is the only appropriate response to anything. So hopefully that supports a little. And yes, handing it over to God, that's all. You don't need to know how to do it. You don't need to know what it's going to look like. Just every time it comes up in your mind, God, show me a different way to look at it. Right? And the less that you actually bring it out, like speak it. Once we speak it, oh man, this is why I always say that speaking is a risky business. Speaking is a risky business. You say the wrong thing one time, you're going to spend a whole year trying to fix and justify and explain why you said what you said. All right. So, yeah. Thank you, Catherine, for that question. And good to see you. Hi, Alex. My question is how to shift, how to consistently work on shifting perspective, changing the story, and letting the new story stick and not being stuck on the old thought patterns. I have been perpetually stuck in the story of lack, scarcity, and not being able to thrive professionally and financially. How do we successfully shift the story? Yeah, this is probably a lot of people and myself. We live in loops, right? We all have stories, and we know. See, the awareness that you even need to change it, the awareness about it, is already the beginning for you. You're already there. The questioning of it means that you're already asking. Okay, but it's not that it needs to change. It's, can you find peace with where you're at? Okay, it's not gonna financially being more secured, having more financials does not give you. It's just you will have the same problems in a different form. So recognizing that this is a classroom right now. Can I enjoy being in this classroom? The shift comes like if I'm upset with somebody, right? The shift comes first from they don't need to change. See, my situation does not need to change. My thinking about it gets to shift. Right? The more I'm trying to overcome and conquer something, so like these patterns, the thought that they're bad first requires a judgment. Two, I think I have to overcome it. And the fact that I'm trying to overcome it actually makes it bigger. It makes it bigger. And then it gets bigger and bigger because the story gets bigger and bigger because I keep trying to overcome it. See, the Course says it isn't about mastering fear. It is about mastering love. So it's about shifting your focus to all the beautiful, amazing things that you already have in your life. Being grateful for it all. And then you start to tap into this energy of abundance it's only around. The only thing that's around is the abundance. Right? When we're in that place of scarcity, we're unable to ask for support. We're unable to receive. when that is around everywhere. Your receiving gives somebody the opportunity to give. And when we give, we receive. It's like, oh, that's interesting. So why am I cutting off receiving? Why am I not receiving from the abundance of the universe? Everybody is part of this universe. Right? So this is a conversation that everybody also has a lot. It says giving and receiving. But the recognition, right? Like being stuck in this story of scarcity and lack. Scarcity and lack doesn't even exist. That's what the Course is saying. It doesn't even exist. You made it up. That means the more you're trying to overcome it, the more you're making it more real. We have to simply shift our focus to what we already have. Oh my God, I'm so grateful. So grateful for my husband. So grateful for today, for this moment, for the opportunity. We focus on the light and the love, and it automatically dissipates the dark. Right? And sometimes it's going to be hard because we do live in a physical world and we do have to play the physical game, the worldly game, and we have to pay bills. But you know, everything is negotiable. And we all have an impact on people's lives. That means we can always reach out and help. What book? I already forgot. It was too far away, too long ago. First, Maya, like that's just, it's the practice of, if you focus on trying to change the thought of lack, you will propel it and create more of. Right? So my kind of what the Course says is focus on the light. And every time that scarcity thoughts come, just give it over. Be like, God, show me a different way to look at it. I am miracle minded right now. I'm ready. I'm miracle minded. I'm ready. I'm miracle ready. Show me. God and this Holy Spirit comes in, not in time, but in willingness, in your asking. Natalia, see you later. It's always so good to see you. Right? What we focus on grows. The law of expansion. All right, so I hope that supports you. You and Tyler, like anytime you guys need any support, Tyler's got my number. Yes, you are miracle ready. That's it. The affirmation. Boom. Ask for it. It always comes too. It always comes. Yeah, it might take days. Like I literally had this, I was sharing on the last call that I had this big thing with a very close friend of mine, and I blew up on him. And it just was eating me away all day. My wife could see it for days. Everything seemed like it was going to come collapsing. Nothing's really collapsing. Financially, everything's fine. Everything's good in my life. And then it's just this one fight with somebody that was close to me. And I said things that were hurtful. And that was eating at me. And I had to keep giving it over. My God, show me a different way to look at it. Right? I would write messages like, I apologize for the way I responded. And, I really care about our relationship. And there was no responses. And the no responses actually brought up more anger. I was like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I've done all this and this and all of the, I go right into that. And I'm like, oh my God, stop it. God, please just take this and show me a different way to look at it. And I was doing that for I prayed like 1,000 times a day. That's my prayer. My prayer is always, God, show me a different way to look at it. And then he came and was like, hey, I didn't answer these messages because I believe what we get to talk about gets to be in person. And then we hugged. afterwards, and then we talked for an hour, and our relationships are even stronger than where we were before. The trust that was rebuilt back into it, knowing that we could go to that type of depth and within a couple days just be further and back and deeper in our relationship. I mean, I didn't do anything. Right? This is just, we're all drawn to love. We are all love. I just couldn't see it. You know? So it doesn't have to happen right now in the moment. It's just trusting that it's going to happen. And then once that shifted, everything else shifted in my life. It was like, oh my God, everything is so good. And my decisions became much clearer. I wasn't sure if I should put $120,000 down hard to extend something. And I was like, easy, easy decision. How did that become an easy decision over this? This had nothing to do with that. Right? But when I was in that struggle, I was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to give up on this. Let me just forget it. Forget all of this. Like, what am I even doing working so hard and doing all that, right? Because you go into this like self-pity, like nobody appreciates what you're doing and all the things you put on your shoulders, but nobody really cares. This is all for you, okay? It's not for anybody else. It's for you to find peace and for you to set your own stage, make your own bed, and knowing that God walks with you wherever you go. So, Armando, go ahead, brother. Sorry, I went on to a story.
Oh, it's all good. I almost walked away from my phone. Thanks for catching me. I was gonna go make my bed actually.
No.
Yeah, yeah. You said bed. I was like, oh yeah, I should probably do that. But yeah, it has to do with the thing that's standing out the most in my mind from this call, and it also has to do with on Sunday when you had pulled the card for me. The word fear, and just I always try to um, be mindful of love and peace and calm and tranquility as much as possible, even though we are in this world and we are trying to make things happen for ourselves, right? Financially and everything else, keep a good balance. And so, just trying to navigate through Vegas and get to know the people, the surroundings, the energy, everything that can just be, what I can be part of. And I was not trying to have fear, and I pulled into the valet parking lot at a restaurant where we were gonna, all meet. And I'm more of that person where I'm just like, okay, I need to be on time. I need to be on this certain time. Okay, what is it? Our timeline that we're working with, and that way I can get onto my next task and schedule. But I just realized that I'm probably doing that a little too much. But the fear was present because um, I was just too engulfed in trying to just be perfect in that time,
Hmm.
right? And when I was then said, "Hey, you don't get to park your own car," I'm like, "Wait a minute, this is my car. I have lots of valuables in here. I don't trust many people like that, especially in an unfamiliar place for me." And so I had to really think fast because there was cars behind me. I didn't know the area, whether there was a general parking around us, and I was meeting you and the group, and I was just like, okay, I need to do something because I'm stalling here, and I usually stall. And so I was working on that. So I was like, okay, you know, I definitely need to trust, as you mentioned, trust. Like, okay, how can I trust in this moment? Okay, Alex would not bring me to this area if I could not trust it, and I just had to hand it over. Like, hand it over. God is present. I know that it's gonna be okay. Instead of me being so fully just engulfed and like being paranoid over my car, they're gonna be going through my stuff and like everything else. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. Like, just go with it. Enjoy the moment. I'm just glad to be alive, and everything's gonna be good. And so from that moment forward, everything just went so well, and it led us to the temple. It just everything aligned to those moments where
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. There is a learning moment in the smallest things. Wherever we go, there will be, right? Like we bring ourselves to everything. Like we play, I love playing this game called Catan, Settlers of Catan, and also Cash Flow Portal. I mean, Cash Flow, Robert Kiyosaki's game. It's everything that we do. It is such a reflection because we can't help but bring ourselves to it, right? So it's funny, like just we get to see ourselves, and it's great when we focus just on ourselves. So, yeah, that's great learning, great share, Armando. Thank you. But I do want to just I pulled the car for Maya before, and just want to read it. So, the past is over; it can touch me not. That's your card. All your past except its beauty is gone, and nothing is left but a blessing. So that's for you. Nope, wait. I don't know if she's still here. But anyways, that's for Maya and for all of us actually. So any other thoughts? We got about 5 minutes left. Card for you, Eric. Sure. Oh, Catherine, thank you. Yeah. Have an amazing, beautiful day. See you next time. All right, Eric, for you. Oh, Maya is here. Okay, yeah. And we actually in the last still here soaking. In the last when we were in Calabasa in our cool ceremony, you weren't there, but I actually sang a song for you. So maybe sometime in the future, we will get there again. So it's good to see you. For Eric. Eric wanted a card to be drawn. I love this. I can see why people love being like, uh, you know, card readers or tarot readers, because these cards are just fun. All right, here is your card, Eric. Boom. Forgiveness offers everything I want. Each lily of forgiveness offers all the world the silent of miracles. Oh, the silent miracle of love. Forgiveness offers everything you want, Eric. Ooh, me too. All right, Kayla.
Me too, Alex.
Oh my
So
God.
for Kayla, we're gonna get in a line. Kayla's first, then I'll go.
Okay. All right, Kayla. Your card. In quiet, I receive God's word today. True prayer must avoid the pitfalls of asking to entreat. Ask rather to receive what is already given, to accept what is already there. In quiet, I receive God's word today. That's a good one. I like it. Okay, Brooke. Usually I like to pull cards after people share and we have a conversation, but what do I know? This is fun. Thanks for being here, Jay. Yes, we do have a lot of fun. If it ain't fun, I ain't doing it. That's my motto. Brooke, that's for you. Okay. I feel the love of God within me now. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. I feel the love of God within me now. Amen. Aho. Hayaya. Iha lama.
Alex,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yes.
Where are these decks? I mean, what deck are you drawing from?
What deck am I drawing from? It's called Everyday Miracles. Robert and Holly Holden.
Oh, right.
Looks like
Thank
that.
you.
It's the first deck I've ever played with. And I also have another one, which is like this. It's like super big. There's a lot of stuff in it. So, you know, sometimes when I lose my mind, I just go and grab a deck, grab any card, and I pull it out. I'm like, okay, thank you. The wisdom from A Course in Miracles. I just grabbed one for myself right now. Heaven and earth shall pass away means that they will not continue to exist as separate states. That means we will all return. Heaven is here already. All right. Thank you all for being here. Wow. Big turnout today. Big show out on a Wednesday. Thank you guys for being here. Lots of people were watching on social. Lots of you guys on Zoom. So much blessings to y'all on this beautiful Wednesday. And may you guys remember love, remember who you are today, and go out and spread it. You are teachers of God, and you are miracle minded. You are ready. May miracles shed upon everybody today. Shine on everyone today. See y'all later. Much love.
Thank you.
Bye.